Okay, we're live. Good afternoon. My name is Michele, and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stamping Up here in New South Wales. So first off, I'd like to welcome you today. If this is the first time you have been on my channel, on either Facebook or YouTube, please subscribe. It's great having everyone joining, and please leave a comment in the comments and let me know who you are and where you're from. But before doing that, please give StreamYards your permission to put your name up so I know who it is that we're talking to and chatting to. If you have any questions today, please jump on and ask. If I don't see the question while the live is on, I will get back to it and answer you after the live has finished. So by all means, and don't rely to be on a live to ask a question. You can jump onto my Facebook page or onto YouTube or contact me directly at michele@jutrissa.com, and ask any questions you have. Hi, Linny. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Okay, so let me just change my camera direction and point it down so you can see what we're going to be doing today. But first off, what I want to say is the new catalogue. I have got a box full of them sitting here next to my desk, and I would love to get rid of them. So if you don't have a demonstrator and you would like a copy of our new catalogue that starts next month, then please, again, leave me a comment or email me, and I will get one out to you in the post. Okay, so let me remove that for the moment because I'm not allowed to show you what's inside there. So that's a big secret. But of course, if you are already a demonstrator, you've already seen them. If you become a demonstrator between now and then, you will get a copy of that catalogue, and you'll be able to order from the new products that are available to demonstrators in that catalogue. And if you have any questions on that, please contact me. This is the card we're going to make today. I am cheating a little bit in the fact that I've got a class on tonight and I completely forgot. Been a short week this week. We've had Easter, and I've had 3 days of working: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Hi, Kim. Thanks for joining. And got to yesterday, and someone said to me, "We've got a castle tomorrow night." Oh, yeah, we do. So I've been busy working on projects, and this one here, I really do like it. It's just a very simple, basic card. So I thought I would share it with you today. And we're going to be using the Irresistible Blooms to make, or the Irresistible Blooms dies to make this card. So I hope you enjoy it. I may change it up a little bit from what we've got here. I've sort of made this, and then I thought afterwards, oh, I could have added that. It's only just a little bit more. So we're going to see how it looks. So let me pop that to one side. And as I said, we're going to be using the Irresistible Blooms bundle. So that's the stamp set and the dies. Now I keep my dies, I keep my dies inside here, but they're not there. They're just tucked away over here. Usually they're inside here, and I always have the cover for my dies just tucked in underneath there. Makes it really easy for reselling on after it's been retired. But this is not a retired set. So this is the dies. It's a red rubber stamp set, so it's great to use. You've got some lovely images here, and in the next few days, or probably actually next week, I'm involved in a blog hop, and we have used this suite for our blog hop. So I hope that you can jump on and have a look at my blog hop that I'm involved in. I'm also going to be using with this card the embossing folders, the basic 3D embossing folders, and that comes from the online exclusive. So you won't find these in your catalogue, but you will find these on our online store. And of course, you'll find that at michelejutrissa.stampingup.net. Oh, there's so many things I have to remember. So many .nets, .coms. sometimes gets a little bit confusing and my brain gets a little bit fried. Anyway, let's keep going. So I'm just going to pop those also to one side. Now, of course, with a new catalogue, we've got some colours going. And I will admit, with this card here, I had a whole stack of Pear Pizzazz, and that is one of the colours we are saying goodbye to. So I really love this colour. It is one of my go-to colours. So I thought today I'm going to make a card using this cardstock as my farewell call to Pear Pizzazz. I've teamed it up with Sweet Sorbet, which is still around, and that's in our in colours. And I've also teamed it up with a new in colour. And this in colour is Copper Clay, which is what I've done the leaves in. It's quite nice. I quite like it. It's got you in your brown tones. But it's it was quite a nice color to use, and I think it makes a little bit of a difference from always using greens on your leaves to add another color in there, because at this time of year here in Australia we are going into autumn, and if you're anywhere like I am here in the Southern Highlands, our trees are already starting to turn. The cold winds have already hit us a little bit earlier than normal. And the trees across the road and outside my house have already got one side of the trees have gone in the autumn colours. So quite appropriate for the moment. I'm also going to be using Very Vanilla with this card. Now, Very Vanilla is not a colour or a cardstock I tend to use a lot of. I love my whites. But this time I just thought, no, it'll be very different to use some Very Vanilla. So I will blog about this after my card class tonight, and I will put on my blog all the measurements for this card. It is a very simple one and using just very basic measurements. So it wouldn't be too hard if you wanted to make it prior to me getting this up on my blog to do it yourself. But I will put the measurements up then, but I'm not going to run through them right now. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my piece of vanilla cardstock here, and we're going to do a little bit of stamping. So we're going to be stamping, now I've already put these on blocks, stamping our large flower and our 2 sets of leaves. Pop that one to one side. And the other thing we will be stamping is our piece of cardstock that's going to go on the inside of our card, and with the little spots or little splodges that come with the stamp that in the set, and that will probably give you a little bit of a hint of what I'm going to do also to that piece of Very Vanilla there. So I better pull that one out as well, because we'll be stamping on that as well. So let's start off with this smaller piece here. Now I've cut it to a size that I can run through my mini cut and emboss machine. And I've got my Sweet Sorbet here. We're just going to ink that up. Make sure we've got enough ink on there. You don't need to push it, stamps right down into your stamp pad. You just need to tap it on there lightly, because all we want is just getting the ink on the surface of our stamp. And we're just going to pop that onto our cardstock straight down, just with a little bit of gentle pressure, and just leave it there for a couple of seconds just to let that ink absorb into our cardstock. Beautiful. Now we'll come back to that in a minute after we've die cut this, because I do want to do, and here I go, got a little bit of ink on me. Let me wipe it off on my trousers, so hopefully I don't get it elsewhere. And we're going to be coming back to the Sweet Sorbet because we're going to do a little bit of blending on this. But right now I want to take my Copper Clay. Now Stampin' Up have had a colour refresh, and it's quite exciting to see some of the colours that are coming back and some of the new colours. So hopefully over the next few weeks I can introduce a few of those to you. going to be a lot more names for me to try to remember, which is going to be the fun thing. I don't have a great memory for names at the best of times. There we are. There's our copper clay. And while I've got that out, I'll bring in these two pieces of cardstock. So we just need that copper clay again. We need our dottage stamp. So I hope you're both having a good day. Linny, did you go out for your lunch like you normally do? I hope you had a nice one. So what I'm going to do is with this, I'm going to stamp that off a little bit first off, and I'm going to stamp it a second time, a third time, and a fourth time. So we're just making it a little bit lighter each time we stamp. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Now, I've just got to judge where in my circle is going to sit. And it's roughly going to be in that area there. So what I'm going to do again is just ink this up gently. Get rid of that big mark on there. I'm going to stamp that off. And I just want to stamp this maybe once or twice, just a little bit like that. I don't want them overpowering because I am going to stamp my sentiment on there later on. So that is all of that. So we'll move all of that out of the road now. And we're finished with that one. So we've got our card insert, our card, part of our card front, or a card mat there. And I'm going to bring this one back in, and I'm going to bring in my mini cut and emboss. Now you will need your mini and your large for this, or you could do it all on the large one. Let's remove those inks out of the road. With all the new colours and new stamp sets and everything coming in, I have done a massive cleanup. So I have got, I've cleaned up all around my desk. I'm not usually, still got a bit of more cleaning to do, but I'm not working in my usual amount of disorganization, I suppose. Now let me just pop that back in before I lose it. And we're going to need our large circle die, the large flower, and those two outline leaf dies. So I'm going to pop those just all over there so they're out of the road. And for the moment, I just need this large flower. And I hope you can all see that there. So I'm just going to line all those up. Now you can use a bit of post-it note tape or a bit of washi tape or something like that if you want to adhere these dies down so they don't move. I haven't had too much of a problem today, so let's cross our fingers that these aren't going to move for me. I've got all those lined up. Just pop the top plate on and run it through. Now, is this going to run through? Yes, it is. Sometimes I have a little bit of a problem with my machine that it doesn't want to run through. And at the moment, I'm using my #1 plate on the bottom, which is what they recommend. But I have found that if you're having problems with getting this through, if you change out your #1 plate to your #3 plate, it will still die cut. This is for just embossing folders, not the 3D ones, just the regular ones, but it's got enough thickness in it that it will work. And I have managed to get ink on my hand from that copper, and it's gone all over. Now my cut and emboss machine doesn't look as clean as what it did before. Oh well. And I've got ink on my hands too. You had a big clean out too, Kim. Isn't it good when you do? Hello from sunny Alberta, Canada. How are you, Marie? I hope things are going well for you over there. Glad you're able to join us. Okay, so we don't need that piece anymore. And we're finished with those plates, so let's just pop them away. Pop these out of the dies. They did move a little bit, but that's okay. I'm quite happy with that. So far we've stamped these in the new copper clay, our leaves, and we've stamped our flower in the sweet sorbet. So I'm going to bring my sweet sorbet in again. And I've got, now this is not a Stampin' Up brush, but Stampin' Up do have the smaller head brushes. This is just one that I had and I used it this morning, so I'm going to use it again. I'm just brushing a bit of that colour off, and all I want to do is just add some colour around the edges. I'm not taking it right into the centre. I'm just adding it around the edges. I'm taking the surface colour onto my scrap of paper so I don't have a big blob, but I always start from the outside and work in anyway. So that's all we want to do. So then you've got your very vanilla centre and you've got that colour around the outside edges, just to add a nice bit of colour to your flower. Okay, so there are our flowers done and our leaves. So we can pop all those to one side. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to grab our, I've got two pieces here. I should have only had one. Okay, so then we're just going to grab our piece of pear pizzazz. As I said, I'm going to be so sad to see this go. And we're going to run this through our large cut and emboss machine with that circle die on there. Now I'm positioning this not in the middle. I'm positioning it into the top half of my cardstock, leaving a bit of room down the bottom. You're always better off having a wider space at the bottom and a narrower space at the top. It's more pleasing and appealing to the eye. Many years ago when I did show card and ticket writing, and I'm talking about many, many, many years ago, I was still at school, that was something that was ingrained into me, excuse me, from my TAFE teacher, that it is a lot better having a bigger space at the bottom. And also it gives you, it doesn't look like everything's falling off. Can't always do it, but it is a good rule of thumb to follow. It's like part of the thirds rule of thumb when you're doing photography, where you divide everything up into thirds on the width and the, like down the portrait and in landscape as well. It just gives you better proportions when you're lining things up like sky and foreground and back, your background and so forth. Now I'm just grabbing all my plates here, popping those all on. So I hope you can see that. I'm just going to position that where I want it. So as I said, just in that top portion there, I'll pop this plate on the top and run that through. So I'm just going to remove all of this and that rubbish, and I'm going to get rid of my two Perspex plates and my plate 2. And I want to bring in my plate number 4, because what we're going to do, let me just grab my embossing folder. So I'm using the embossing folder, which is probably my favorite in this set of 3, because it's got that lovely hash type pattern on it, but it's like the old Subtles embossing folder we had. It gives you a nice texture to your cardstock without being overwhelming. So I'm just going to pop this die out. And it's just clinging in a few places. So let me just bring in my take a pick tool. Just popped out so easy when I did this earlier today. Okay. So we'll remove that and remove all those little bits. We don't need those in there. And we're going to pop this now into our embossing folder. So the Stampin' Up is always at the top, because that's the front of your embossing. And we're going to pop our plate. So I've got plate 1, then I've got my embossing folder with my cardstock, and then I'm going to pop plate 4 on top. And we'll run that one through. Oh, you had a fall. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you are definitely on the mend from that. My sister lives in England and she hates winter over there because just everything gets so icy and so slippery. It's one thing, I mean, we have snow and everything here, but we get icy roads, but we don't get icy streets. You probably would do in areas like Threadbow and things like that, but yeah, not in our sort of our main areas. Like we get snow here, but we don't get it every year. Every year I keep saying, I hope we get snow this year. I hope we get snow. Our winter has been very early this year, so it's like, again, I hope we get snow. But anyway, I'm not even going to cross my fingers this year. If we get it, we get it. If we don't, we don't. But I hope you're feeling a lot better. Okay, so we've now got this embossed, and we need to bring in these pieces here, and we're going to adhere this onto here. So this is a good time to just check, did we get enough splatters? Probably could do a few more. I might just ink that up with a little bit more ink and ink that off a couple of times, because I think I just want to add a little bit more, maybe there, and maybe a bit more over there, just to give it a little bit of a feel. I don't necessarily want the whole area covered. It was just to take away a little bit of the whiteness I have, or not whiteness, but the vanilla area off there, just to give a little bit more texture. Pop that straight into my box there for my class tonight, so then I don't forget it. Now we're just going to add some multi-purpose glue onto the back of our card front, and I'm just adding it around the frame. And you could add just a couple of little dots. Just be very careful, because you only really need just a couple of little dots on that lacy area. And the reason why I like to use multi-purpose glue is the fact that I can slip this a little bit if I'm quick and slip it into the place, because I haven't used a great deal of, and that's probably, you get more slip with the more glue you put on there. And I didn't put much glue because I didn't want it oozing out, but so there wasn't a huge amount of slip there, but it was enough just to get that into that position. So there we go, we've got that there. Now let's grab our card base. So I'm using a 10-fold card, and I'm just going to fold that in half grab my bone folder, just give that a really good fold there, and then that can be adhered straight down onto there. Now, of course, if you wanted to, you could pop that up with some dimensionals if you wanted to pop it up a little bit, but I'm going to put dimensionals underneath the flowers, so I don't want to have too much depth in this card. Again, with that great multi-purpose glue. Pop that into there. Now I'm also going to pop the card insert in there. Actually, I'm going to step this up a little bit more, and I'm going to take, going back to my sweet sorbet, and I'm going to stab. Now you could use a smaller flower because this set comes with a large flower and a small flower, but I'm going to use this one here, and I'm just going to pop that just into that corner just to give a little bit more there. And we might even just add, because we do have a lot of those spots underneath there, just add a little bit of color. It doesn't have to be much, just a little bit, just to add a little bit more interest to the inside of our card. I used one of the new embossing folders from the basic 3D embossing folders, which you will find on our online exclusives. So that's the one that I've used, and I've used the one that's got the slightly hashed. I must admit I haven't used the other two as yet because I really do like this. Like, I've hung on to the Subtles embossing folder. I haven't used it, but I've hung on to it because I really love to have a little bit of texture. If you remember years ago, I used to do a lot of scrapbooking, and we had Basil. It was a brand name, but it was also the name of one of their pieces of cardstock, which had a real linen sort of look to it. And I love that sort of hash. And they actually at one stage brought out, it was either them or Chatterbox brought out cardstock, plain cardstock, that had a very, very similar pattern to this. So I just really love having a bit of texture and not having just all plain cardstock on my cards. I think it's just a little bit more pleasing and adds a little bit more texture. So that's why I've used that particular one. But this is very quickly, well, it has become my favorite because it's just going to, I suppose, release me to be able to get rid of that old, now retired embossing folder, which has just been taking up room because I'm not using it anyway. Because I tend to only just like to use what is current. So this is a really good replacement for that Subtles embossing folder. So let's adhere this to the inside of our card. I'm trying to keep myself organized and put things away so I know where they all are, and I've got to take them all out to where I hold my classes in the evening. My poor husband gets kicked out of the family room. He has to go and watch TV in the lounge room. Can't work on his computer or anything because I've got a class, but then he's very good because when I have a class, he actually makes everybody hot coffees, teas, or hot chocolates. And now that our evenings are getting cool, the hot chocolates are very lovely to have. So it's good to have a husband like that who's prepared to get in and make me coffees and make my guests hot chocolates and coffees as well. So I'll pop that on the inside of our card. And now we're going to decorate the outside. So we've got our pieces here to decorate. As I said, this is just a very, very simple, quick card. So we just need some dimensionals. I'm just using up some bits and pieces that I have here on the end. And I'm just going to cut a couple little pieces here. Now, what I tend to like to do is pop my flower on first, which is going to be the highest, because I'm going to put some dimensionals behind that. And I like to just put my dimensionals at this point in the center of my card. So I'm just going to pop 2 pieces there in the center, and that just allows me to be able to slip things in underneath. So we're going to pop this on here. I'm going to pop it on at a little bit of an angle because I want it to follow the curve of the die cut that we've cut out. And then I'm going to use glue to adhere my leaves. So by having the dimensionals in the center, it means that I can just add my leaves or anything else that I want to put underneath there easily, because I've got the height to be able to slip it in. Even if I was gluing, say, my, my leaves, well, that's still wet, I'll pull it out. But I'm only just putting glue there on the end. I'm not putting glue all the way up. It's not just because I want to have that little bit of flexibility. If you want to lift them a little bit, you pop that down and give that a little bit of a curve up. It also allows me too that if I decide I want to add a bit of bling to this, like a bit of thread, another embellishment, that I can do that. So for example here, I've got a little box here full of bits and pieces that I've cut, and these are some of the leaves from the same set. And if I wanted to, I could add a bit of glue. Actually, we might just do that. So we can add a little bit of glue onto the end of there. And then I can lift that up and slip that in underneath as well. So it just allows me to add more to this without having to have everything glued down. And then sometimes if you have everything glued down, then you've got to cut things away a little bit to get them in. I've allowed room for things to be able to go underneath. Now that's not quite dry there. My finger just moved it. So let's just have a look. See, I've got a few more here. Just pop these out. I cut these out the other week for a card that I've got coming up on my blog hop, and then didn't use them. So they're coming in handy today. So I can pop that into there if I want to pop that into there. Now I've just realized the only thing I haven't done on this, which I was going to do before I put all the flowers on, is put my sentiment on. So let's see if we can get that sentiment on now before I start adding way too much more. And I'm just using a very basic hello as my sentiment. Now I should have stamped this on before these flowers went on. That's okay, because I think I can still get this reasonably straight. And that's going to go there. Just hold that for a couple of seconds. Beautiful. You see, there's never a mistake made. You can always add something or cover something up. Just wondering whether I might pop another small leaf in there. Yep. Because even with twine and things like that, your baker's twine and so forth, or your linen thread, I have, particularly recently, I've been doing it a bit, but building up my card like this and then finding I don't have room, or I've decided I want to add something in. So by having that lift, I can then, let me just see if I can find my linen threads here. Here we go. To get myself some more by the looks of it. Add it to my list. So I can come in, just run my finger along that a few times just to get rid of all those curves. I'm going to tie a bow. Let's try that again. Don't want as long a tail. So I've got a bow there, and I might just add that into there. Probably could have made those tails a lot shorter, but I want that bow to look a little bit, not so much like a bow sitting on top. I'm going to tuck it in underneath, and see, that's another thing that you're able to do if you have those dimensionals in the center. So I'm just going to pop that onto there, give that a good push into my glue dot. I'm going to take a pick tool, just lift up the bottom of that, and I'm going to pop that right into there because I want that bow to be coming out from underneath. Remove those. This card is just growing by the minute. So we were able to add all of that onto there. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of bling, because since we used I've got to look at the name, the copper clay, I'm using these brushed metal adhesive back dots, which I haven't used a lot of, and I'm going to use the copper color there, and I'm going to pop a large one there, smaller one there, and then another small one just somewhere up there. So there you are. That's my card for today. So let me bring in my original. So that's what I started with. That's what I'm going to be doing in my class. And that's how you can step it up to something a little bit more by adding, some extra bits and pieces that you've got lying around. So I hope you've enjoyed that today. Just remember, if you are wanting a catalogue and you don't have a demonstrator, please contact me and I can get a catalogue to you. If you have any questions or anything on this card, please ask. All the measurements and everything I will be placing onto my blog, and hopefully that'll be up over the weekend. So I'm glad. Thank you for joining me today. I hope we all can get together again next Friday, and we'll try making something else. So have a lovely day. Take care. Stay safe. Marie, look after yourself. No more slipping on ice. And everybody else, have a lovely, lovely weekend. Bye for now.